I've got my eye on you. Let's go. I need to make sure that this goes well. Namaste. Hey, how's it going, guys? It is JakuD013, and I am doing another video today. This time it is going to be advice on helping you guys deal with the format. Now, as every Yu-Gi-Oh player knows right now, the format for 2013 is just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The release of Elemental Dragons and Spellbook of Judgment have pretty much just made the two decks that are right now just the top tier decks just ridiculously broken, and it pretty much really separates them right now from the current meta, at least the meta that we had originally from the Mermail format, which was the format previous to this one. But in any case, a lot of the things that people have been dealing with right now is just trying to figure out ways to solve their problems right now they have, whether it's just problems with themselves having to learn to deal with these decks, or trying to beat them, or just trying to win with these decks and just facing other opponents who have the exact same deck. Now, a lot of it comes down to just Elemental Dragons. It's just fights for who gets field control first and who can pretty much lock down their opponent with Light and Darkness Dragon, or just counteract with Big Eyeing their Big Eye. And Prophecies is just pretty much who can get the best cards first. And Spellbook of Judgment pretty much seals the deal. But in any case, just a lot of my friends are just reacting to this, and a lot of the people I've seen just going off in general about how Elemental Dragons are just busted, how they're broken, they're ridiculously consistent, which I agree with, because no deck should have the power to be able to get a plus off of anything you do with the cards. That's just absurd. But at the same time, a lot of my friends are also saying that they'll just come back the next format, that they're going to go ahead and quit for this format, and that they're just done with that, which I don't agree with that, but I can understand why some people do that. It's not the worst deal to make. But when people just up and quit the game, or start getting all negative about it, saying Yu-Gi-Oh is stupid and things like that, now that's going a little too far. Yu-Gi-Oh isn't stupid, it's the people who are stupid, and I'm pretty sure we all know that. Because people are stupid. What you gonna do? And just, I have a bit of advice that I just use every single format to just try and deal with the changing games and all the changing meta that are always coming and going. And this might not be for everybody, but I figure that this can probably affect the largest amount of people in a good way. Anyways, just, it's about drowning out all the negative energy and all the negative stuff that people are saying about the game and the way they're feeling about the game, and just trying to get along with things. So, first of all, you gotta be willing to play along with what's going on. Now, when I say play along with what's going on, I don't mean that you have to try and buy the new decks. I don't mean that you have to just try and give in to what Konami's doing right now. By far from that. I just mean play along if you can and if you are willing. So, if you can afford the new decks, and if you are willing to play the new decks, then that's a whole different story. Perfect. You are the perfect subject for Konami to work on. But if you can't do one or the other, or if you don't want to do both, then there's different responses you can have. For instance, let's start off with saying if you can't. Now, when I mean you can't, I mean you're not able to afford the cards, or just, it's a little bit out of your financial reach. And what you do pretty much is just stick to what you have. Stick to what you have from the last format, and just try and make it better. Get creative with it. Try to do more test on stuff with it. Tech cards in. Figure out what works with it. And in the end, that can only really benefit you, because by the time that the deck that is really broken right now has its time and its share of the glory, it's going to get hit by the ban list, which is inevitable, and more than likely your deck, which probably won't be making a big splash, is just going to be left the way it is and very minimally hurt by the ban list, if at all. And when the new decks come around and the new formats are starting to begin, you have a much better idea of how to play with your deck, you have a much better way of knowing how to play with your cards, and that's going to give you a huge advantage over everybody else, because pretty much everyone's going to have to try and figure out ways to deal with the new decks that are going on right now. And if you at least stick to your old one, that's just always a good option. You save yourself a lot of money in that process. Now, let's say if you're not willing to play the game. Now, what I mean by willing? Well, can't is one issue. Because you can't, it means you don't have the option to play the deck. You don't have the option to be able to go out and buy the best decks that are out there right now. But if you are willing, then you can at least, or no, I'm sorry, if you aren't willing, then that just means that's a subjective thing. That's a personal problem that you have with trying to play the new decks. And it could just be because you don't want to play the new decks, you have issues with Konami, with the format, with the players, the competitive scene. It doesn't matter. It's just, you get the message. It's personal. You just don't want to play anymore. Now, what I suggest that you do for that situation is just drop the competitive scene. Just, I'm going to be blunt here, give up on it. Because more than likely, every single deck that is going to be out in the competitive scene is going to be that one deck that is going to be really, really good. And more than likely, just you're maybe going to see, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 rogue decks out there. At least this is going to be the way it is, because a lot of people are going to call this a linear format, teledad format, whatever you've heard, whatever you go by, it doesn't matter. But that's what it's more than likely going to be. You're not going to see as much fluidity with all the different decks that there used to be out there. It's going to be mainly Elemental Dragon and Prophecies, probably, with a couple of Evil Swarms and maybe some Mermails, just because it's still a viable deck and just because it's still good. And a lot of other players have been getting used to that over the years, so that's just what some of them know how to play best. But that's one thing, so just drop the competitive scene. Don't go to tournaments, at least don't go to too many tournaments. You can still go to like maybe one YCS or like one regional tournament, especially if like it's just right around the corner of where you live. Kudos to you. But just focus on what you got at home. Go to your locals, play time with your friends, just maybe even catch up on things that you haven't done before, things that you haven't had that much time to work on as you used to. And if you want to, just go ahead and go with your friends who also hate this format as much as, well, you do, and just go bitch about it on YouTube. I mean, I don't know, whatever floats your boat. And lastly, if you can't and if you won't, well, that's a different situation, because you can't play the game because you don't have the money, and you won't play the game just because you were getting tired of it. What I would suggest you try and do there is go to Dueling Network or go to DevPro. Just play games there for free. It doesn't cost you a dime at all. And if you want to, just go ahead and play the best decks out there, play your own deck that you have right now, or just play really, really trolly decks like Chainburn or Final Countdown. Just to mess with other people. Because who doesn't love to troll somebody every once in a while? But lastly, and this is the serious matter, if you really are tired of this and none of this is going to do it for you, then you should really consider your place right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the cold reality of things is, it's not probably going to change. I mean, I've been around for so many different formats, and this happens every single year. An awesome deck is brought out, people like it, people play it, it tops, it wins events, Konami makes its money off of it, then come the September ban list when things actually get cleaned up, they pretty much just kill the deck in the ban list, and then they make another deck to replace it. There's always going to be another deck made to replace the previous decks, and that's just going to be the way it is. It's a cycle that happens every single year, and players just have to get used to that, because that's really how a lot of this is going to work out. And like I said, if that's not something for you where you can just try and like go through the seasons, just go through every single year and try to play the new deck, or just find a way around it so that you can enjoy yourself, then there's really no point, because you're just not getting anything out of the game, and it's just, the point of the game is to try and get something out of it. You want to get something out of it ultimately, whether it's just, you have fun, you start winning events and you start earning prizes and stuff like that, you go hang out with your friends, doesn't matter. As long as you get something that you enjoy out of it, then that's good. But if not, then just don't play. And you don't need me to figure that out. It's going to be how you feel about it. But that pretty much just brings me to the end of my video, and the only thing I have to say is just, what does everybody else think that's going to be the thing that they're going to have to do to try and deal with this, or the solution that they're going to have to make to this? I give in my tips that I use every single format to be able to make it through, and I always pretty much just am able to enjoy myself, and I always feel like I'm at least having fun, so that's just me. But if that's not for you, then go ahead and figure out something else. Go ahead and talk about it. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed my conversation, or comment down below if you want to just weigh in on what's going on. Just give your opinions. And other than that, let's try and help each other out as much as we can. But that is it for today. This has been Yugioh D, and I shall catch you guys later.